I would say to just always trust your heart and to go for it. Like, believe in yourself and don't worry about what everybody else thinks or says, or they mean well. Like, they don't know what they don't know, and to just go for it and do it anyway, because that's when you're going to be the happiest. And
I am your host, Danny Brassell, and this is the program where we celebrate the positive contributions of individuals throughout our community. And it is my joy and pleasure to have with me today best-selling children's author, Sheri Fink. Thank you for joining me today, Sheri.
thank you so much for the invitation. I'm happy to be here.
That's great. I'm so excited to have you because I had read The Little Rose, and I just think it's a wonderful book. Tell us a little bit about your bestseller, The Little Rose.
Well, The Little Rose is my first children's book, and it's about a little rose that grows up in a weed garden and thinks that she's the weed. And she learns to accept herself for the beautiful rose that she is. And it's just a really inspiring story, and it went bestseller, #1 bestseller within 2 weeks of launch last year, and has been a whirlwind ever since then. It's being adapted into a play, and it's just been amazing.
I saw that. That's just amazing. It's been like just week after week. It's #1. Now, how does one create a #1 best-selling book? A lot of people ask me this all the time. What was your secret?
Well, for me, the secret is people. I was talking with people, asking people before my book came out, knowing that I wanted it to be very successful, and asking them, who do you know who's a best-selling author, and would you introduce me? And lots of people were like, I think a friend of a friend, or someone else I may have a connection to, and they were kind enough to introduce me. And then I would request, 15-minute call with that person, and most people were very generous with their time, and I would just ask them, how did you do it? What worked for you? What didn't work? What would you do differently? And what do you suggest for my book, which is for ages 5 to 10 and helps kids with their self-esteem? And most people can get behind that cause, so a lot of times they were willing to help. And by the time my book came out, and I just emailed these folks that were so kind to spend their time with me, they had talked about it on social media with their friends and their networks. And so when it came out, people were buying it without me I hadn't even officially done the launch yet. I was still planning it.
That's amazing. I don't want to put you on the spot. Would you mind telling us some of the authors you consulted with? Or is that confidential information?
I will keep it confidential,
okay.
but people were very generous with their time, and I'm very grateful.
Well, and I think the point I'd like viewers to get is ask and ye shall receive, that yes. Somebody, just an ordinary Joe off the street, that these people would give you 15 minutes of their time. I think that's wonderful. And in my experience, writers are always some of the most generous people possible, because all of us have been there as
yes.
struggling writers. Now, what inspired you to become an author?
Well, I didn't mean to become an author. I was actually inspired to write the story from an experience that I had where I had been bullied. And the story just flowed to me, and I just wrote it down like as quickly as I could, and that had never happened to me before. And I put it away. I typed it up when I got home, and I put it away for over 2 years and didn't think much else about it. I was at a conference, at one of Jack Canfield's conferences, met a lady.
Chicken Soup for the Soul.
That's right, yeah. That's right, Chicken Soup for the Soul fame. And a woman that I met there was asking me about my writing, and I said, I really just write for business and marketing, because that's the career that I was in at the time. And she said, I think you have something else. You must be writing something else. And reluctantly, I told her that I just had this one little story, and she said, well, tell me what it's about. And so I told her, and she said, I just got goosebumps. You have to do something with that story, because my grandchildren need that message. And I thought, maybe it could be a children's book. So when I got home from that conference, I was like, wow, how do you create a children's book? I had no idea. So I started having the calls with people and asking, and I reluctantly sent it out to about 20 people to read the story, and just to get their feedback on it. And 9 out of 10 of them kept saying, I got goosebumps, I got goosebumps. So I thought, wow, maybe this really does have opportunity there.
And this was just a woman that you met at the Jack Canfield
A random
conference?
interaction.
Do you remember who it was?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Does she know that she's had this impact on you? That's very important. A lot of people don't. That's fantastic.
Yes.
Well, and I had looked at, I cheated and checked out your Facebook page, and you had listed The Power of Focus as one of your favorite books. Tell us about the impact that Jack Canfield has had on your life.
Oh, Jack Canfield is amazing. He inspires me so much. The Power of Focus is one of my favorite books, and I've read a lot of books.
Good.
And something about it just really spoke to me about if you focus on what you want and you create more of that in your life and you seek out the mentors and the coaches and just basically don't be afraid to go for it. And that was something that I think a lot of people, that's a message that we continually need to hear, even if we've heard it in the past. And I had attended Jack Canfield's Breakthrough to Success 2 years ago. And then after that, I was so inspired by his teachings, I created a journal called Dreams Come True, Your Daily Journal for Maximum Well-Being and Success. And that's to help me originally incorporate his teachings into my daily practices. And my mastermind group found out about it, and they were like, wow, that's amazing. I need that too. You should put that out there, because a lot of people are going to want to use that tool. And I thought, okay, so that was the first time I ever self-published anything, was putting together a journal basically for myself that other people also wanted. So when the idea for the Little Rose came, the opportunity, I kind of had some groundwork on what to do with it, and that was all as a result of being involved with Jack's trainings.
Well, and you just threw out that term mastermind group. For the benefit of the audience, what do you think a mastermind group is? What is the mastermind group that you're a part of?
The mastermind group is a group of 5 or 6 people who get together every 2 or so weeks on the phone. And you talk about something that's new and good, so everybody goes through and says that. You also go through and ask for help on something. And it's a really good practice to remember to always ask for something, because if there's not something obvious to me leading up to the call, I'm like, wow, what should I ask for today? And it gets you in the habit of asking. And people are happy to help. I mean, most of the time, they've got the answer, and they're just a phone call away. And it's been really helpful to me. I'm actually in 3 of them now.
Okay, and how does one create or to participate in a mastermind group?
Well, you find people that you want involvement with, typically people hopefully who are a little bit ahead of you in the game that you can learn from. And they don't necessarily have to be in the same industry. It's actually good if they're not, because they can see things from a different perspective and offer insights on things that have worked for them, and you can apply that to your situation. But yeah, you just invite people to be a part of your group, and then once you have your group, you set your schedule up, and people dial into the free conference call number, and away you go.
How do you attract people into the group? Because if you're always trying to find people that are a little bit better than you, I mean, I would think of the Groucho Marx line where he said, I never want to be part of a club that would have somebody like me as a member. What's in it for them, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
Well, because everybody has expertise in different areas. Like my background is in online marketing. So a lot of the times people are asking things about that. I can definitely help with that. Or in publishing now, I can help with that as well. Some people are experts in relationships. Some people may be experts in making decisions quickly or delegating. You know, everybody has something to contribute to that. But for me, when I wanted to join one, I just put a note out to people I respected and admired who I was already in communication with and said, you know, I'm looking to join a new mastermind group. Do you know of any that might be a good fit for me? And then I was really fortunate to be invited into 7 different groups, and I was like, wow, I was overwhelmed.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's coming through loud and clear that you're very motivated, though. A lot of people just don't do anything, and ask and you shall receive. It's a pretty good policy.
Yes, you have to ask and you have to show up.
Okay.
That's the most important thing, is to be actively involved in it and really help other people.
Well, you mentioned a little bit about your background in online marketing. I'm very impressed with your background. What drew you to online marketing? I had seen that you got your bachelor's degree and master's degree from George Mason University, right? I went to American when I was in college, so I'm from that neighborhood in the Virginia, D.C. area. What made you jump from communications into online marketing?
Well, after graduating, I had an idea for an online magazine. This is back before there were tons and tons of them.
Yeah.
And I was talking with my advisor at George Mason, and I told her this crazy idea I had, you know, to create this online magazine. I didn't even know HTML at the time. But I quickly learned it, and then I was teaching it at the school, so it worked out really well. But she said, you know, you should really consider going into this program because there's a big focus on e-commerce. And I looked into it, I talked to some of the professors, and I got really excited about it, and I thought, wow, you know, I really could do this.
Have you sent a thank you to that professor?
Yes,
that was a
absolutely.
Smart move.
So I did that program, and while I did, like I said, I learned HTML. I learned lots of things about web development, and before there were all these great tools to make it a lot easier for us, and taught it at the school while I was there, and then I went straight into online marketing, and I was helping drive traffic and increase sales for a lot of mostly big brands, and then did some consulting afterward for smaller businesses in the local area. So.
Well, and you eventually earned a business administration certificate from UC Irvine. Why did you enroll in that program?
Well, I found like the marketing was really, I had a passion for the marketing, and it was really cool because it was always evolving and you're always experimenting. You could test so much with online marketing and see if it worked right away, and I loved that aspect of it, but I was moving up in my career and I needed to manage people, and I recognized that I didn't have those skills or that knowledge. I wasn't born with it.
And they trained you that?
Yeah. So I went to that program and I got some great resources, and I'm still in contact with many of the professors, and it's just been very beneficial to my career. Even now that I'm a solopreneur, I just, those skills have been so valuable, the networking and the management and the leadership, because even if you're working on your own, you're still a leader in some aspects of your career.
How important do you think that is? This is just, I'm throwing this out there because I'm a person that's gone to a lot of different universities. Nobody will have me for more than a couple of years. But I always tell people, I'm like, you could really educate yourself quite a bit just online. There's tons of great programs, and looking at people's sites like yours, I'm like, wow, I learned just a lot from 1 hour on your site. What do you suggest people do out there?
To learn more about marketing?
Yeah, absolutely.
I suggest they follow the leader. Like, look for people who are doing what you want to do, and then research how they're doing it, and then get into contact with them if you can, and build a relationship. And a lot of times what I've done is I've reached out to them because I support their mission, and I say, you know, what can I do to further this, to get you more of what you want for your audience, or for your book, or for whatever their goal is, and in a very authentic way. And a lot of times people are just so flabbergasted that someone wants to help them. They're like, wow, let me think about what I could use, And so if you help someone, they're much more likely to spend a few minutes with you and help you out, and say, oh yeah, I use this for my website provider, or I tried that and I didn't like that, or so your learning curve gets a lot shorter, and I'm a big fan of that.
And you're talking about a theme I've seen with a lot of people like you that are great at marketing, is the theme is that give and you shall receive, and it sounds like you're getting a lot back because of all the service that you did. You're the founder of the Author Success Academy, which I'm assuming, since you haven't been an author for a long time, this is one way that you're giving back to the community. Tell us a little bit about the Author Success Academy.
I'd love to. I've been getting so many calls from aspiring authors, friend of a friend, people who've heard about me or they've heard me speak, and they say, oh, can I just get a little bit of your time? And I'm absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm having all these calls, and back in summer of last year, I was having 10 hours of calls a week. And that's a lot of calls. And my coach was like, this is great that you want to give back to people and you want to help them along their journey, but you need to find a way to balance your writing with this goal and to serve them in a bigger way. Because, me giving a bunch of ideas for an hour is great, but it'd be better if it was in a systemized process so they could do it on their own time, and they could ask questions and get feedback and just do it in a much more comprehensive way. So I came up with the idea of the Author Success Academy to help transform these aspiring authors into successful entrepreneurs. And I'm basically teaching them everything that I've learned from my experience and from others that were so kind to mentor me along the way, and helping them bring their books into the world. So. And
tell us a little bit more about the Author Success Academy. How long does it take? Who can participate? How do you find out more about it?
Sure. It's a 12-week program, and it's audios and videos that can be downloaded and watched on their own time, because many of the people that I talk to, they've got very full lives already.
Yeah.
So it's important for them to be able to do it on their own schedule. And then we have group coaching calls every other week. So they download the module, they watch it, they do the activities or the homework, however you want to look at it, take the action, and then they come to the call, and then we talk about what they've done, what kind of questions they might have, brainstorm ideas for next steps. I actually have an action guide that goes with it, and some other templates and tools to help make their journey a lot quicker and easier.
I'm flabbergasted. I mean, you've done all this in just a couple of years. It's pretty amazing, pretty aggressive. Now, You had mentioned it earlier, and I didn't ask right at that time, but I want to get to it now. When you were talking about writing The Little Rose, you said you had been bullied. When were you bullied? Was it as a child, or I mean, you said you got the idea a couple of years ago. Tell us a little bit about that inspiration for the book.
Sure. I was actually bullied in the workplace,
Wow.
and that was several years ago, so as an adult. And as an adult, not knowing how to handle the situation and doing everything wrong, and just being desperate to like help me figure out what I should be doing in this situation. And because I kept thinking irrationally, well, I should just not attract positive attention because I didn't want any negative attention. And so you just shrink, but that is not the key. Like, the key is to be who you are regardless of what else is going on in the world, because everybody has the right to shine. And that was the whole thing about The Little Rose, is embracing your differences as gifts, no matter what anyone else thinks about that. Because that's how you're going to be successful and happy in life. And so that's the message that I learned through my experience, and now I get to share that with kids, and it's amazing. I mean, I'll be doing a reading, and sometimes people just burst into tears.
Wow.
Because they can relate to the story so well.
That's the great thing about literature. Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's awesome. Now, why did you choose to self-publish the book?
Well,
And I'm not, and a lot of people mistake me when I ask questions like that. I always point out to people, people like John Grisham, Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, Jack Canfield. These are all best-selling authors, and their first works were self-published. I'm always just interested in what the motivation is for authors.
well, I talked to a lot of authors, and the people who were the happiest tended to be the self-published authors, and I thought, well, why is that? And so I dug a little deeper, and I went to a couple writing conferences in the local area, and I talked to as many people as I could.
This is a good area for writing
Oh,
conferences.
it's fabulous. Yes.
Lots of writers.
And when I talked to them, I learned that they're running this as a business, not as a hobby, and they have control over their destiny. So if they want to license foreign rights, they can choose to do that. They don't have to go through a committee or, and the publication process. When I learned about traditional publishing, it has many values to it. It's such a long process, and I couldn't wait that long to get this message out. I just felt a burning need to get it out there. So I started researching, how do you self-publish books? How do you do these things? And I was fortunate to be introduced to a woman who became my mentor. Her name's Teresa de Grobat, and she's a 3-time best-selling children's author in Canada.
Great.
And
how did you find her?
I asked someone I met at Jack Canfield's conference if she knew any best-selling authors, and she was a best-selling author, so I had a call with her, and she said, I'm going to introduce you to the Dr. Seuss of Canada. And I said, oh, fabulous.
Wow.
So yes,
That's
mentors
excellent.
and coaches have made a huge difference for me.
Well, and that's a great message, and I know for all ages, all of us can use mentors and coaches. Now, how did you find an illustrator, and what was your turnaround time from idea to actually publishing The Little Rose?
Well, when I actually decided I was going to go for it, it was about 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had already written the story. I mean, I made a lot of edits, and I did a lot of changes to it, but I'd already had the initial idea years ago. But I had no idea what I had in that drawer. Thank goodness that wonderful woman pulled it out of me.
What is your life like now? You've gone from online marketing consultant and working with these companies to now you're going all around to like classrooms and Girl Scouts and things like that, reading a children's story that you wrote. What's been the transformation in your life because of that?
It's a lot more fun.
A lot more fun, good.
It's a lot more fun, and it takes a lot more courage too, because it's my heart. Like I wrote this completely from my heart. When I was writing for business stuff, it wasn't. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't from my heart. So now, like when I speak at a conference or I speak in front of a classroom, it's like it's completely me. It takes a lot more courage, but it's so much more rewarding, and to have people connect with you. And I don't know, I just last week I spoke with a Girl Scout troop, a couple of them actually, and one little girl waited to the very end after all the parents had talked to me and all the other kids had come and got their books signed, and she looked at me with these big eyes full of love, and she asked me if I would be her mentor.
I love it.
Oh my gosh, this tiny child, like,
oh my goodness.
and I will do everything I can to help her, like everything.
Good for you.
Because that is an amazing gift, So that's the kind of experiences I have today.
And you never know. I once read a story, and unfortunately I can't remember the author's name, but it was when he was 6 years old, he wrote Truman Capote, and he sent in a little story to Truman Capote, and a week later he got the story back, and the note said, good story, poor spelling, send more. And for the next 20 years, he had this correspondence with Truman Capote, and then this guy wound up winning the Pulitzer Prize eventually, and it was from that mentor, somebody that inspired him. Now, I mean, I want to just go watch you speak. People can just go to your website and to book you for different speaking engagements?
Yes, yes.
Now, and we're talking, you know, you've spoken to, like, I know you do Girl Scouts, and the way I met you is both of us have a passion for reading is fundamental. You've done things with them, but you also speak with adults about following their passion, right?
I do, and now aspiring authors as well. And it's incredible. Even though I was speaking to kids last week, the parents, like 3 of them came up with tears in their eyes and said how inspiring the story was and how they always wanted to write a book. And it was just amazing that people share that that with me, their dream with me.
Well, I'm glad that you're sharing your dream with them, because that'll inspire them. You never know, somebody actually might take action. I mean, it's just amazing to me how far you've come in just such a short time. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about a passion that both of us have, which is Reading is Fundamental. We're both involved here in the Los Angeles chapter, but tell us a little bit about your involvement with Reading is Fundamental.
Sure, I'd love to. Well, I first became involved with them as a child when they would come to the school every couple of months, and they would bring free books for every child, and you could pick any book that was there, a brand new book, just for your own personal library, and it was so wonderful. It was like Christmas Day. I don't know, I get really excited about thinking about it.
Well, the first time I ever saw you speak, you actually had still the book that you received in 4th grade. It was 4th grade and from Reading is Fundamental. And I was like, oh my gosh, you talk about somebody making a difference. I mean, that made a difference for you.
It makes a huge difference. And teaching kids like how fun reading is, like getting them to really experience that for themselves at a young age. I mean, that's part of the reason I wanted to become a writer. You know, and now I am. And now I'm fortunate to work with Reading is Fundamental Southern California and help them support the kids. They support over 100,000 kids in the Los Angeles area. And I'm so grateful for anything that I can do to help, you know, shine the light on them and what they're doing and help attract more opportunities for them to serve those kids.
You're an inspiration to everybody, but I mean, being a woman, I'm sure you're an even bigger inspiration to girls, little girls especially. I mean, I know my daughter, we saw Spider-Man one day, and the next day she wrote me a book, and it was called The Adventures of Spider-Girl. And I thought, wow, I mean, there needs to be this extra role model component for little girls out there. What's your message to the little girls out there who want to be the next Sheri Fink someday?
Wow. I would say to just always trust your heart and to go for it. Like, believe in yourself and don't worry about what everybody else thinks or says, or they mean well. Like, they don't know what they don't know, you know, and to just go for it and do it anyway, because that's when you're going to be the happiest. And I don't know, it's amazing.
Okay, I'm going to get personal here. I want to know, you know, you're married to Ryan. How did you two meet?
We met in college, actually.
Oh, really?
At George Mason.
At George Mason,
yes.
Great.
Yes, it was a time I was supposed to be, I was at my friend's room and we were supposed to be out already, but the person that was supposed to pick us up to go into DC didn't show up. But fortunately, Ryan came by and he was already friends with them, and I was like, oh, who's that?
Ah, there we go. How long was that courtship?
Well, we dated, let's see, we've been married for 3 years. We dated for 12 years.
Oh, my goodness, he took his time, didn't he?
Well, we had a lot of big dreams. I grew up in a really small town, and going to college wasn't a given for people in my community.
Where did you grow up?
In Culpeper, Virginia.
Oh,
a wonderful small town. But so wanted to finish college, and then I wanted to get my master's, and we wanted to move to California. That was a big dream too. And
why did you want to come to California?
We just fell in love with it. We came out here after we graduated from undergrad, and we said one day, you know, wouldn't it be amazing if we could live there? And we kept that as our little dream, and we'd tell people, and some people would laugh and say, nobody's ever moved out of town, like from here, like that's crazy. But some people were like, wow, yeah, you can do it. You can totally do it.
I love it.
After I finished grad school, a year later, we did it. And then we wanted to get established, and there were just so many other goals. So we knew that we would eventually get married, but wanted to do it the way.
Well, now you're here, you're married, you're living your dream, you have 2 kittens. I want to know, because this is your responsibility to society, when are the 2 of you going to have your own children that you can read to?
Well, it's not an immediate plan, but I do feel very fortunate to have a 6-year-old nephew.
Oh, okay.
And we love doing Skype calls with him and seeing him when we go back east to visit. So. And it's wonderful. And I'm actually speaking at his elementary school in May. So
Oh, wow,
very
that's
excited
going
about
to be
that.
pretty neat. Now, I always love to ask this. Who are the authors that inspire you? I saw one of your favorite books is actually one of my favorite books, and that's Watership Down by Richard Adams. I actually was mountain biking once in England, and I was sitting on this hill, and it was beautiful, and there was little rabbits jumping around, and I thought, wow, this is like Watership Down. And then we biked another 100 feet, and there was a plaque that said on this hill, Richard Adams wrote Watership Down, and I couldn't believe it. Who are the people that speak to you? Who did you use as models for your children's literature?
Well, Richard Adams is amazing. He's absolutely amazing. Like Watership Down is one of the most beautiful books I've ever read. I love how you can feel his words. That makes a huge difference for me. Now, if I feel something, I really want to finish it. I want to see where it goes. If I don't, then I put it down.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're a children's author, and a lot of people think, well, I want to write for adults, but I find that a lot of the best adult literature is actually children's literature. I always point out Dr. Seuss wrote the Lorax 50 years before anybody was paying attention to the environment. Your second book, The Little Gnome, tell us a little bit about that and what your inspiration is for that book.
Well, The Little Gnome is about an adorable garden gnome that gets placed in the garden in the summer, and he loves it there. And then he gets a little confused when the fall comes, and then in the winter when his friends go away, he gets a little grumpy, being icy cold, and he doesn't know about the seasons, so he's learning about change, and then he learns to embrace the goodness in change, to look for the good, because that's when you're going to find it.
Wow.
So it helps kids learn to look for the good in change and learn about the seasons at the same time.
Yeah, I would say you're almost like Eric Carle, where your organization of your writing, kids will have an easy path to write their own little books about little gnomes. Now, did that inspiration come? I had seen that you used to have a website. You might still have this website. I haven't checked it. GoSightsee.com.
Oh.
You're the founder of a travel website. What inspired you to do that?
Well, I have a passion for travel,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't know that growing up because we didn't travel very often.
Uh-huh.
But after college, and my husband and I, we'd be like, well, let's do this, so let's go there, and I loved it, and I loved to explore. And people would always ask me before they went on their trips, what are the best things to do in Las Vegas? What are And we're kind of, we're a little bit off the beaten path too. So, so I thought, well, I'll just create a website. That way, I can just point them in that direction, and I had a lot of fun creating it. But no, the little gnome, I have this little thing for gnomes. I like them. I don't know.
Well, if there's any gnomes watching out there, they now know that Sheri has a thing for gnomes. We're running low on time, Sheri, but I really want to know what's the future hold for Sheri Fink?
Well, we are debuting the brand, The Whimsical World of Sheri Fink, which is going to have the...
Great title, by the way. I love it.
So we're going to have the books for the children, and then I have 3 more books on the way, 2 based on characters in The Little Rose and The Little Gnome, and 1 completely new series.
Well, if people haven't figured it out yet, you can do anything that you set your mind to. Sheri's living and walking proof of that. Thank you so much for sharing with me today, Sheri. I mean, this went by very quickly. Can't wait to have you on again. Good luck in everything you do.
Thank you so much, Danny. I really enjoyed it.